Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, on today's episode, I am going to be setting the betting odds for the question of who will be the next Pac-12 team to make the playoff, if that happens ever. Maybe ever. You know, nobody should be a response. But I did not make nobody an answer here. So here are the odds at my sports book. So I've got Oregon as the favorite at plus 175, followed by USC plus 220, Washington plus 500, and then the field at plus 535. And I guess the field could include never, ever making the playoff again.
True. Yeah. True.
So what do you guys think? What do you think, Ryan? What's your bet?
Yeah. This is a tough one to set lines for since the multiple teams in the field. So, but I'm leaning towards. I'm getting rid of Oregon in my eyes. I just think that's too high of odds for them. So I'm thinking I was between USC and UW, and I'm going to go with UW. When they're plus 500 and you got Oregon, who was plus 175, that's almost 3 times as better odds that you're getting with UW than Oregon. And who was supposed to go to the Pac-12 championship game this year, Mike?
That's right. Washington technically had the better record, but they had to cancel due to COVID.
I mean, they only played 3 games, but
they didn't have to play. They played 4 games, and they didn't have to play Oregon, which who knows what would have happened there. But they technically won the North.
Exactly. So there you go. I just feel like it's too big of a gap. Okay, so I know Oregon's recruiting very, very well. If you go to the 2020 recruiting class, they were only 6 spots different. Okay, so it wasn't some huge gap, not a triple odds different gap. This past year, 2021, it was a wider one. I think Oregon was like 7th, and UW was in the low 30s or something like that. But UW took a very, very small class, so their per star or per kid, per athlete was much higher average than you would think. So I'm going with what UW. They're going to have great defense. Jimmy Lake always has a good defense on that side. So if they could just get the offense to, they don't have to be elite. They don't have to be that great. But if they could get them to be just a little bit better, then they could win that North, no problem. And then they could take, somebody from the West or from the South. So I'm going with UW.
Well, if you follow our podcast, Ryan, John Ross isn't walking through that door.
I know. There's got to be somebody that's going to replace his shoes one day.
No, but at these odds, though, I was with you. I really, really thought about taking Washington, but ultimately, I just had a little bit of concern with that offense. Like they still need to take a pretty big leap in order to be playoff good. I mean, they're not that far off. I'm not saying it's leaps and bounds, but that was what kind of held me back. So I took the chalk here with Oregon. I like their coaching staff. I like how Cristobal develops the line play and on both sides of the ball, and that really helps, especially if you want to be good enough to get to a playoff. They've recruited better than USC and UW. I mean, not by wide margins, but good enough. And they're the current kings of the conference. I mean, they've been to multiple New Year's Six bowls recently. They won the Rose Bowl. They were just in the Fiesta Bowl, I believe. So they're knocking on the door. They're close.
Yeah, that's fair. I think those are 2 reasonable bets. It was hard to set these odds for sure because with Washington, I can see why maybe that was tempting, but the reason I didn't set their odds, lower, I guess, or give them a better chance of being that first team, is just because I was looking at them versus the field, and I thought, should Washington really be a favorite over the combined teams in the field? Because that field has got. Well, let me throw that back to you guys. Who do you think has the best chance in the field to make a playoff?
Yeah, it gets dicey after UW. I mean, those are the clear 3 favorites: Oregon, UW, and USC.
Yeah,
I would probably. Yeah, go for it, Trey.
Well, no, it's funny because a year ago you asked this, you might have had Utah in at least the mix, but you got UCLA's improving, not quite playoff level. Utah, though, has knocked on the door there. Whittingham is so dang consistent with them. I mean, just 2 years ago, they were the Pac-12 title game away from going to the playoff. And then you got Stanford, Cal, ASU's got some upside. I know, Michael, you like Jaden Daniels. He could take that next step and get them maybe over the hump. But boy, I don't think I would take the field over.
Okay, but I ask you, who has
though.
the best chance in the field?
Yeah.
I need an answer from one of you guys. At least.
All right, I'm
One
gonna say
team.
I'm saying Utah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go Utah too. They've kept it up for a consistent time long enough, and like Trey said, they almost got there 2 years ago. So, it'd be them, and then probably ASU.
Yeah, I think that's right. And let's see, what else do we got here?
Well, I wanted to point out when I looked at this, I didn't really even. It's kind of weird to say, but I didn't really factor in SC that much, just because it's not analytical at all. But I had a hard time grasping the fact of Clay Helton in the recent next couple of years getting to a playoff. So,
Yeah.
I don't really have evidence to back that up, but just more than a personal feeling.
Yeah, well, like Michael brought up before, like this next year's schedule sets up pretty well. They avoid Oregon and UW in the regular season, so they're going to be clear favorites in every single Pac-12 game they play.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
So if they can just handle Notre Dame, who's got a new quarterback coming in, and they also play BYU, right, Mike?
Yeah, BYU loses.
Everybody in the Pac-12 plays BYU practically this year. But BYU is going to be replacing everybody. So yeah, it sets up for them pretty well.
There's a chance. I mean, I'm not super high on USC this year, but they're going to be preseason top 15 to 20. So
They can run it.
I'm discounting them too much.
I think in the short term, Oregon is the clear favorite. I think we all agree with that, that they should be at least the favorite. The reason I think USC was so close in odds to them, or the reason I set them so close in odds, was that if it doesn't happen in these next 1 to 2 years, then it's more longer term, 3 or 4, then I think that might favor USC. They just
Agreed.
They seem to have stepped back up the recruiting to right there with Oregon, and wouldn't surprise me if in the next couple of years they surpass Oregon. It all depends on what happens as far as recruiting goes.
They just got the built-in advantage of
they've got that blue
USC
blood
and
status
LA.
that in the long term could help.
And
Sure.
in LA.
All right, there you have it. Broke it down. Thanks for watching the College Football Bros. Let us know in the comments below who you would bet on, and we will be back next week. See you then.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.